Father Simon, Brother Matt and Sister Bobby. My first confession, which does not need confession, is that I am a priest, a bona fide, genuine, Church of England, forgiveness-bestowing priest. What follows is a tale which I've already cleared with the real God, but
Good to know.
But I feel still needs your consideration.
Okay.
In other words, he's got a showbiz story, so he wants to tell us about it. As a new chaplain in post, I was conducting my first Holy Communion service with a small but devout group of faithful churchgoers. This always entails an element of concern, mainly to make a good impression whilst being faithful to the gospel. Having been ordained for several decades, my experience prepared me for most eventualities. Well, this is where the story gets technical. There are a number of ways during communion to deliver the wafer to the recipient. In the low church, this involves the simple placing of the wafer in an outstretched hand. In the high church, this can involve the more delicate placing of the wafer on the outstretched tongue. In a chaplaincy setting, there can be an interesting mix of the two. After the appropriate prayers and blessings had been prayed, I walked to the rail where the faithful were kneeling. As a low church man, where we don't do ritual, but conscious of the delicacy of the high church operation where they do, I said a quiet prayer that it would all go well. This prayer was not particularly answered. I approached the husband of my new church warden, waiting for the hands to reach out to receive the wafer, even.
And the waiter.
Beg your pardon. To receive the wafer. Sadly, I waited in vain and instead saw his tongue reach out to receive the consecrated wafer. This was delivered delicately and decorously with no drama. A precedent had been set, so I moved to his wife, my new church warden, a key official in the efficient running of the church. I was ready. I had successfully negotiated my first tongue and moved forward with, which is a good line, Father.
Yes, it is.
I moved forward with confidence, wafer at the ready. My fingers moved towards her tongue for the delicate operation of placing the wafer without my finger and her tongue making contact. The operation was proceeding smoothly until finger and tongue withdrew, the transition having been seemingly completed. However, this was not actually the case. The wafer wobbled and then dropped. And let's just say that it disappeared into a delicate gap and could not have landed more perfectly in her décolletage. It's surely not going to go in the cleavage.
No.
This was not a scenario that theological college had prepared me for. Thankfully, my church warden saw the funny side and started heaving with laughter. Unfortunately, this had some consequent effects involving a much shaken wafer, which had now, frankly, disappeared to who knows where. And it's not my priestly concern to consider these matters.
No.
My thoughts varied from, oh, I must rescue the wafer, to, no, I don't think that would look good.
No, it wouldn't.
And then to controlling my own heaving bosom. With, if I may say so myself, remarkable decorum, I placed another wafer and moved on, maintaining what little dignity was left in such circumstances. I do not ask forgiveness from my church warden, as her heaving shoulders seemed to indicate that she was enjoying the scenario. As a priest, I am confident that I have also received divine forgiveness. But I do seek forgiveness from you for the unhealthy delight with which I have told this story many, many times, which is why Father wants to come before us for a little bit of showbiz confession with some stardust. Sister Bobby.
Well, there's a lesson for us, isn't there? Cover up.
Well, there is. Well, the lesson is,
You know.
the lesson is zip up, basically.
Yeah, be careful of crumbs and
Have a
things like that.
have a high neckline.
That's
You need
my lesson.
listen. If you need a polar neck, you need a turtleneck.
That's good.
probably,
Hand them out.
That's what I'm saying. Is that's the advice. What I love about this story, of course, look, you're forgiven. There's nothing else you could do. What I really love, the hero of the story, is the church warden's wife who found
it
it
all very
hilarious. Which, because of course, you could have got someone who found it. I mean, it's a solemn, serious
Yes.
service, isn't it? So you don't want to break that. So I love the fact that she found sense of humour, and I think it would be. I'm assuming it would be okay if you had a bit of a giggle over that situation, that no one was offended. So, of course, you're forgiven. I think that's one of my favourites. Love it, love it. Wear a turtleneck in future.
That's what we've learned.
Yes. I think probably your instincts were quite right there, Father F, in not going fishing for the wafer. I'm not sure that would have looked very good, and would led to an even better story that we couldn't have read out. So I am going to say definitely. I think obviously there is nothing to forgive here because everyone's fine with it. I mean, you probably have a theological discussion about what happened to the wafer, but we're not the time for it now, really.
No.
So I'm going to say definitely.